Hi everybody, my name is Sevi Alvarez, and I'd like to thank everyone for joining us this morning. I'll begin today with a quote. Don't join the book burners. Don't think you are going to conceal faults by concealing evidence that they ever existed. Don't be afraid to go in your library and read every book, as long as any document does not offend our own ideas of decency. That should be the only censorship. That was President Dwight D. Eisenhower, who might be my favorite Republican president. He made that comment at the height of the Red Scare, during a time when Senator Joe McCarthy infamously demanded the removal of library books that he claimed were subversive. Of course, we know today that in reality those books were just written by people whose political views Senator McCarthy didn't like. President Eisenhower won that battle of ideas in the end, and we should all be glad for that. Unfortunately, in recent years, there has been a resurgence of McCarthy-style antics, as libraries nationwide have come under attack for carrying titles by certain authors, or titles that contain LGBTQ content, or titles that tell stories written by or featuring people of color. In August of 2022, Senator Josh Kimbrell held a press conference across the street from the main branch of the Spartanburg County Library. He demanded that the library stop carrying various books or else he would cut their funding. Since then, South Carolina's libraries have come under attack by radical legislators across the state. Behind me you can see the Boiling Springs Public Library. Today I stand here before you in defense of our libraries. It is not the business of government to shield its people from ideas, and we must not give an inch as the book burners and the book banners seek to silence the voices of generations. I vow to oppose those efforts at every turn. You might be asking yourself who I am. My name is Sevi Alvarez. I grew up in Charlotte, North Carolina, just about an hour and a half northeast of here. My parents were working class, neither of them went to college. For a long time, my little brother and I grew up on the verge of poverty. Despite those struggles, I did well in my studies and graduated second in my high school class. I started college, but that got cut short when my father suffered a debilitating stroke that left him permanently disabled. I moved back home, and for 7 years, together with my brother, I took care of my father while I worked as a delivery. I understand struggle, and I understand the tough decisions families have to make each and every day. We were eventually able to find new living arrangements for my father, and I went back to school to get my own life on track. In 2015, I earned my master's degree in accounting from the University of North Carolina at Charlotte, go Niners, and I earned my CPA license soon after. Around that time, I met my brilliant and beautiful wife, Liz. We got married in 2018, and a year later, we moved to Spartanburg to be closer to my stepdaughter, Joanna. We couldn't be here this morning because she's at her dad's house. After we got down here, we decided to have a baby because Spartanburg is a great place to raise a family. And I transitioned from corporate accounting to become a stay-at-home dad. Our son Ben was born in August of 2020, and he's not here. He's at home with grandma because he's feeling sick today. Being a stay-at-home parent has been one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. It has helped make me a better husband and father and allowed me to take better care of my family. It would be easy and fulfilling for me to focus only on that and just not engage. But I cannot, in good conscience, turn a blind eye to a state legislature that has run amok. The folks in Columbia have gone off the rails in recent years. Many of our representatives don't seem to feel beholden to their constituents at all. They choose instead to chase the votes of an increasingly radical and fringe base that lurks on the far reaches of the political spectrum. I was talking about this with my wife one day because we talk about everything, and at the time, I was thinking about running, but I hadn't made a final decision yet. She looked at me and said, and I'm paraphrasing here because I know nobody talks like this in real life, but she said, "Sevi, this is your time. It's time for me to support and stand with you as you have stood with our family. You must stand up for a better Spartanburg, for a better world for our children." So here I am. South Carolina's legislators have chosen to focus on policies that, at their best, help almost no one, and at their worst, actively harm the people who live here. This goes far beyond library censorship. Our representatives are policing women's bodies, standing between women and their doctors. They have undercut our public and private institutions, waging a misguided war on diversity, equity, and inclusion programs that have strengthened our local schools, communities, and businesses. They are punishing businesses for following best practices by recognizing environmental, social, and corporate governance scores. They are refusing federal funds that would feed hungry children. The folks in our state capitol have become the villains we used to laugh at during Saturday morning cartoons. They're the bad guys from the movie Footloose. They misrepresent us, and our communities deserve better. And unfortunately for us, Josh Kimbrell is one of the worst of these McCarthyite book banners. I have decided to run for his seat, South Carolina Senate District 11, because we deserve better. This is the part where things get personal for me. Late in 2022, I was diagnosed with stage 3 intestinal cancer. I'm happy to tell you now that the cancer is completely gone and I'm fully recovered. But if you or a family member have lived through that terrible disease, I don't have to tell you that the treatment process is not fun. It's a long and grueling road that I would not wish on my worst enemy, not even Josh Kimbrell. But do you know what would have made that journey even harder? If our state legislature had decided that my radiation and chemotherapy treatments were illegal, or if they had outlawed the 2 major surgical procedures that cut out the cancer and saved my life. There is no reason that any medical procedure that has been vetted by medical professionals should be outlawed by a bunch of politicians without medical degrees down in Columbia. We ought to trust people to make their own healthcare decisions. And that is why I support reproductive health legislation that would not only make abortion safe, legal, and accessible, but would go even further and apply those same medical freedoms to all residents of South Carolina who want to have any procedures, so long as those procedures are approved by the wider medical community and recommended by the patient's doctor. Sorry. After my diagnosis, I was lucky to be covered by good insurance, but hundreds of thousands of South Carolinians are currently not covered at all. Many more who are covered could still be bankrupted by a cancer diagnosis like mine, or a car accident, or diabetes. Yet this legislature still refuses to expand Medicaid in South Carolina for 500,000 residents who need medical coverage. If North Carolina was able to expand Medicaid with a Republican supermajority, there is absolutely no reason that we can't too. That will be one of my top priorities the moment I am elected your senator. Childcare is a problem that my family encountered again and again during my cancer battle. It's pretty hard to chase a 2-year-old around the house when you can barely get out of bed. Liz and I were able to navigate this with help from friends, family, and community resources, but those hardships opened my eyes to the plight faced by millions of families, not just in South Carolina, but nationwide. We've got a childcare crisis on our hands. The price is out of reach for the average working family, the waiting lists are outrageously long, and the pay that child care workers receive is not enough to live on, especially here in South Carolina. These are substantial problems that harm our economy and keep it from thriving, but they are solvable problems if we have representatives willing to make them a priority. When I'm elected, I will draft legislation that would do just that. The final topic I want to cover today is infrastructure. Spartanburg County recently passed a penny sales tax, which will do a lot of heavy lifting to improve the quality of our roads. But infrastructure is about more than just pavement and bridges. It's about harnessing growth to benefit our whole community. It's about housing, affordability, walkability, and amenities too. You all see the library behind me, but behind that, there's a massive construction project underway. When it's done, there will be a huge shopping center with a Target department store as its centerpiece. This project is going to bring jobs, commerce, and other economic benefits to Boiling Springs and the surrounding areas. That's fantastic. But do you know what else it's going to bring? Traffic. Lots and lots of traffic. And if you already think Highway 9 is miserable to travel during rush hour, you can imagine where this is going. This isn't Target's fault, it's not the county's fault, and it's not your fault. This is a symptom of the uncontrolled and indiscriminate growth that has been both a blessing and a curse to this area for years now. And the path forward is to take a serious look at incorporating Boiling Springs into its own city with its own government that would have the power to implement zoning and facilitate community input on the developments in this area. The theoretical city of Boiling Springs would yield numerous benefits for the people who live here. But first, let me deal with the elephant in the room and talk about property taxes. Yes, if you own property here, your taxes would increase. There's no way around that. But did you know that this would be offset, at least in part, by lower property insurance premiums and less expensive trash and recycling pickup? You'd also have your own police department, improving response times in this area and freeing up resources countywide for the sheriff's office. You'd have a mayor and a city council representative who would listen to you and be accountable to you. And you would no longer need to go to Jack Mabry or the rest of county council for every single local issue that comes up. The city government would facilitate the development of additional amenities all around the area, including additional parks and other green spaces, walking trails, and community centers like the city of Spartanburg has. When I'm elected as your senator, I will push hard to get funding to conduct a proper feasibility study so that we can all better understand the true impact of incorporation and make an informed decision about whether it's the best path forward for Boiling Springs. You deserve to see a study of the possibility so that you can make an informed choice yourself. Improving our infrastructure and quality of life. Safeguarding our medical freedoms. Expanding Medicaid. Expanding access to early child care. These are what I will focus on when I'm elected as your senator. These are issues that we deal with every day in our community, yet our current legislative leadership is doing nothing about them. So today I am asking for your vote. On June 11th, and then again on November 5th, scroll past the straight ticket option and pull the lever for Sevi Alvarez. My name is Sevi Alvarez, and I'm running for South Carolina Senate District 11. Yeah!